Alright, we've stalled enough. Let's play a game. Clippers versus Bulls. So we're just going to be goofing off during this game. We really don't care what happens. Michael Jordan has definitely already averaged a triple-double. Doesn't matter how much of anything he gets. It would be cool to average at least 35 points per game, so maybe I should get a certain amount of points with him. But it doesn't really matter that much, because I really don't care how many points I average as long as it's enough to average a triple-double, because that was just my goal at the beginning of the season. But it'd be cool to average at least 35 points per game. I mean, I'm averaging 34.8 at the moment. Ooh, it dribbled off the rim. Danny Manning, that's who that is. Danny Manning was an interesting player. I think that he was a #1 overall pick in the early 90s or late. No, it had to be the late 80s is when he was an early overall pick. Ron Harper, later a teammate with Michael Jordan and the Bulls when the Bulls did their second three-peat when they had Dennis Rodman and Michael Jordan returned after playing baseball and everything. But anyway, Danny Manning, the Atlanta Hawks, Dominique Wilkins was having one of his best seasons ever with the Atlanta Hawks. He was playing great. And the Atlanta Hawks were in first place by far in the East. This was in 1995. Yes, 95 when Michael Jordan was retired playing baseball. And out of nowhere, the Atlanta Hawks decide to trade Dominique Wilkins, their star player who is leading them to 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They decide to trade him for Danny Manning. Out of nowhere. They decided to trade him. It was a travesty, and then they started losing. They barely held on to the 1 seed. I mean, they were a solid 1 seed before the trade. And then they started losing. They barely held on to the 1 seed, and it didn't matter because they ended up losing to the Indiana Pacers, a 4 seed in the second round, because they were so stupid to trade away Dominique Wilkins. I mean, the Atlanta Hawks have never really made very good decisions in their history, and I know this because I have some family members who are Atlanta Hawk fans. I grew up in an area close to the Atlanta Hawks, and I had some family in the Atlanta area, not exactly in Atlanta, but close to the Atlanta area, who were huge Atlanta Hawk fans. I went to a couple of Atlanta Hawk games when I was a kid. It was really, really fun. I got to see March 10th. I think it was March 10th, 1991. I saw the Bulls play against the Atlanta Hawks. That was the first season that the Bulls actually won a championship. It was 1991. And I went to go watch a regular season game. I mean, I just went to go watch Michael Jordan. You know, my parents asked me, what game would you want to go see? If we went to go see Atlanta Hawk games, I'm like, the Bulls. Duh. I want to see Michael Jordan. And we went there, I believe it was March 10th, 1991. And there's all kinds of highlights of that game on YouTube, because there's highlights of every single game in the history of the NBA on YouTube. And, yeah, I was at that game. I was only 6 years old at the time. And the Bulls completely destroyed them. I mean, they beat them by like 35 points or something like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. Corner 3! That's referencing the Family Guy episode, isn't it? You like Larry Bird? I like Larry Bird a lot. Larry Bird was an amazing player. Larry Bird was... You know, it's funny. Michael Jordan never beat Larry Bird in a playoff series. Of course, that's not really fair to say, because Larry Bird, once Michael Jordan's team started getting good, Larry Bird was at the tail end of his career with his back injury. So that's not very fair to say. However, Michael Jordan's Bulls did absolutely destroy the Los Angeles Lakers and Magic Johnson in 1991. But the Lakers did have a lot of injury problems in that NBA Finals series. So I mean, I don't really think that you can hold it against Jordan that much for losing to Larry Bird when Larry Bird was in his absolute prime at age like 28, 29 in like 1984 and 85 and 86 or whenever those years were that he lost. I believe that he got swept by Larry Bird in the playoffs twice in like 86 and 87 is the years I believe it happened. I don't think you can hold that. Look at this double block on Ron Harper. I don't believe that you can hold that much against him because Michael Jordan did not have a very good team. The Bulls had the number 3 overall pick when they picked Michael Jordan back then. I mean, they were obviously an up-and-coming team at the time. They were only an 8 seed when the when the Celtics were a 1 seed. So you can't really hold it against Jordan for losing to Larry Bird at the time, as Larry Bird had Kevin McHale, Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, Danny Ainge. Well, Danny Ainge was a bench player, not that great. But still, an established NBA veteran who could, who was a good player, much better teammates than Jordan had at the time, of course. What's funny, Chris, is Larry Bird, when he came into the league, he kind of revolutionized the three-point shot in a lot of ways that are kind of weird. Larry Bird's rookie year, he shot a lot of threes for the time. Now, I say for the time because he was only shooting about three three-pointers per game. Back in the 80s, that was a lot. Most players didn't shoot more than 1 three-pointer a game. Most of the time you got 1 three-pointer a game, and that was either you were wide open to take the shot, or the shot clock was running down and you had the ball out on the perimeter and you had to do something, But Larry Bird started shooting a lot of threes, but then his coaches told him to knock it off. His coaches told him, hey, stop taking so many threes. That's not the way you win games. So he did. And he really cut back on his threes. He was still a great outside shooter and everything, but he didn't shoot that many threes for the next few years of his career. But each year he started shooting a few more and a few more because, that's just the way the NBA started going. Every single year, players started shooting more three-pointers. And now the teams shoot like 30 to 40 three-pointers every game. That's just what the NBA has evolved into. Oh, I keep on throwing interceptions. Yeah, the way. Well, teams saw the three back then in the 80s. Teams saw the three-point shot as a bad shot because, remember, back in the 80s, the three-point shot was new. The first time the NBA had the three-point shot in the league was the year 1980, and back then the three-point shot was new. Not very many people had that kind of range from 25 feet. And since not many people had that kind of range, not very many people took the three-point shot. And every time there was a three-point shot, it was a very long rebound. And very long rebounds are not good for the offense. If you want to get a good opportunity for a second shot on your possession, a chance for second, whatever it's called. I can't even think of the phrase that it's called. Second chance points opportunities or something like that. Long rebounds are not good. So teams frowned upon the three-point shot because of that. So not a lot of teams took three-point shot because of that. It was all about dunking back then. It was... Jordan really started the whole dunking thing. So back then in the 80s, when Jordan was up and coming, it was starting to be about dunking, but really it was about team ball. I mean, you never saw any better team ball than you did in the 1980s. The 1980s had the best team ball, in my opinion. That is just my opinion, but I believe in the 80s, that was the best team ball. I'm sure a lot of people think that the Celtics of the 60s was some of the best team ball that was ever played. I'm sure like people like my dad would say that. But the 80s was just such a good time of... Oh, I got fouled too. Cliff Levingston. Now, Cliff Levingston provided some very valuable minutes for the Bulls in 1991, their first championship. Let's put in Bobby Hansen. Let's put in Will Perdue. Let's put in Stacey King. Getting a lot of steals. American Gladiators, nice. I'm going to have to learn, if I want to do a Coach 50 again, which is something that I'm thinking about doing. You know, I've got a whole year to do it, but I would like to learn 50 new games and do another Coach 50, because I had so much fun doing that marathon stream. It was actually a lot more enjoyable than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be frustrating most of the time. Not most of the time, but about half the time I thought it was going to be frustrating and stressful. But it was actually really fun because I practiced the games very sufficiently and was able to make them stress-free playing them. I would really like to learn 50 new games. Doesn't necessarily have to all be NES games this time. Maybe I could add in a few Super Nintendo games. But I'd really like to do another Coach 50. But I have not a lot of new games to learn, and American Gladiators might be a good one to learn. Yeah, other game shows would be good as well, like Wheel of Fortune. Jeopardy Jr. is a game that I really enjoy. Let's do some more Substation. Let's bring the starters back in. We'll leave Bill Cartwright out. Jordan has 34 points. Oh, that was Jordan. Oh, it doesn't matter that it was Jordan. I was trying to dunk it. Grant? Is that Harvey Grant? Now, Harvey Grant is Horace Grant's brother. Horace Grant, a twin brother. Horace Grant played on the Bulls. Harvey Grant played on the Bullets. We are not playing the Bullets, so that's not Harvey Grant. Oh, Ron Harper. It hugged the rim and went in. So I'm going to be finishing the regular season tonight, which means I have 2 more games to play after this. It let me goaltend right there. That was awesome. But after those 2 games, if you have a request, of an NES game or a Super Nintendo game, let me know and I will play it. Get my starter bell card right back in there. Got all my starters back in now. What about Double Dare? Double Dare is a game show that I used to watch every morning before school. It was always on from 7 to 7:30 in the morning. And I would watch it before school. And some of the episodes really frustrated me because, like, the flags that they would have to collect and the obstacle courses at the end would be in like a fake a huge fake hamburger or something like that, and the flag was impossible to find inside that thing, and it let me just goaltend again. So it was really, really difficult to find. Yeah, Double Dare is fun. Didn't they make a remake of Double Dare? You never liked the short. You know what? Every time I tried to do a full season on a game, which I often tried to do, I never finished it. In fact, I don't think I have ever finished a season, whether it be shortened. Oh crap. Whether it be shortened, long, or whatever, in an NBA game before. I even tried to complete a season on Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey for the N64, which was an 82 game season, and I didn't finish that one either. Oh, I got fouled too. No, I never played golf games. I mean, the only golf games I ever played were NES Open. I mean, NES Open was really the only golf game I ever played until Buzz introduced me to PGA Tour for Sega. And I played a little bit of golf on the NES as well. But at the NES Tournament Open, I played that game a lot on an emulator when I was in college. When I was in college, I played that game a lot whenever I was between classes and stuff like that. Okay, so points, 35.2, blocks, 20.66, rebs, 11.25. Okay, we've got 2 more games. Let's do it.